Do you guys remember that Subway commercial where the guy was wearing a helmet and his life coach was speaking to him through the helmet?
Wake up! Take the stairs! Say hello!
Hello.
Not him, her!
Hello.
No.
Well, coaching is not quite like that, but honestly, almost everyone I work with admits that they have never had a life coach before. I have no idea what to expect. Here's what it looks like if you work with me as your coach. And if this interests you, go to dianakerr.com/coaching. You can apply for a free call to chat with me about coaching and tell me about your life, see if we're a good fit. I'll put a link to that below. So before our session, you would get a 3-part questionnaire emailed to you from our client management software where you can manage your sessions and reschedule sessions and like all that kind of stuff. And so it'll send you a questionnaire and it basically asks you, number 1, what's going well? What progress have you made? Number 2, what challenges are you facing? And then how are you combating those challenges, either with action you're taking and or with mindset shifts? And then question number 3 is essentially like, what do you want to focus on in our session? What do you want to leave the session with? In other words, the questions are basically what's good, what's not so good, what do you want to accomplish during our session? All of these questions are important because they give you a chance to reflect and actually learn something from what has happened since our last session. But you're taking the time to pause and really think like, what has God taught me? Or what progress have I made? How have I been working past the challenges I'm still facing, etc. The questions also help me, of course, to prepare for our call, and they save you time in our call so that we can cover more ground and get deeper faster because I don't need to start out the call asking you basic questions. You've already kind of given me a progress report. So the most important question, though, of those 3 is for sure the last one because that's what I use as our guide for our session. I'm keeping that in mind, like, okay, this is what she said she wanted to accomplish. You may have heard me talk before about how I love this question of like, what is the end result that you're after? And so that question on the pre-session questionnaire does just that. It helps us know what are we really after, not just, oh, I want to talk about my marriage or I want to talk about the clutter in my house or whatever, but what do you want to accomplish related to that topic? That helps us use your coaching time in a really focused, intentional manner. And we're still very fluid, of course, to where God leads. And he is very much present in our sessions and helping guides. It's not like we always know exactly where we're headed at the end of a session. But the better you can identify that, and I can help you with that if you're feeling stuck, the more likely we're going to be able to stay focused and really get somewhere in our session instead of just using the time to talk and process through things, which is valuable, but just probably not quite as valuable as it could be. So you might be thinking like, well, how do I know what topics to choose? And I could make a whole video just about all the things that you could do in coach, things we can cover in coaching and all that kind of stuff. But I will just say simply, you are always in the driver's seat of your coaching journey. Well, you and Jesus. So you can choose whatever. And I truly mean whatever you want to talk about in each session. However, I strongly recommend that clients choose just one main topic per session so that we can really go deep and really get some clarity and resolution on that one thing instead of spending like 10 minutes on, several different topics. And number 2, I recommend that you choose something that aligns with the overarching coaching goals that you set during our first session together. So maybe you kind of had 3 main areas you wanted to focus on that we decided at the beginning of our coaching time. The more you are choosing topics for your sessions that fit that, the more likely you're going to feel like you're making progress rather than if you use every single session for a totally different, completely unrelated topic. When it's time for our session, then I will call you at whatever phone number you want me to call you on. And yes, I do purely phone sessions. It's way better than you think. If you're local, I am willing to meet up in person for your first session, but otherwise all of our sessions are via phone. And this makes things incredibly simple and convenient for both you and me. You do not need to look perfect. You don't need to mess with video conferencing technology, although at this point with COVID, most of us are pretty adept at that now, I know. And if you choose to, you can do your session while you're out on a walk or you're driving or you're breastfeeding. You are welcome to do that. Of course, you will get better results if you are very focused on your coaching and not multitasking, doing a bunch of things. Your brain is focused, you're able to take notes, but it's your life. And sometimes good enough focus on something is just the best that you can do in a season. So I like to make it really, really convenient for you because the women I'm working with are busy. They have very full lives. I know that it can be such a barrier, because I've experienced that myself, to wanting to work with a therapist or a coach, but you have to have childcare, you have to physically get in the car, drive somewhere, do it in person, all that stuff. So I just try to make it so simple for you. For the record, I only coach when my children are out of the house, except for very rare occasions where maybe my husband's home with them because one of them is sick or there's, school's closed or something like that. So I am here in my office at my desk, totally focused on you, no one in my house when I'm coaching you. We'll start out your session then checking in on anything that you committed to or that we worked on in the past session, in your last session. So you probably already gave me some information about that already in the questionnaire, but often we need to go a little bit deeper. Maybe you've experienced coaching or therapy in the past where the person you're working with gives you some homework, but over time you kind of realize they don't really check in with me about the homework. So you kind of feel like, well, these action steps are kind of optional because no one's holding me accountable. That is not how my coaching works. So before we just jump right into your new topic in this new coaching session, or even if we're continuing the same topic from the last session, I want to make sure first that we didn't just waste all that time in the previous session talking about something, but then not putting it into action. So I want to make sure you're making progress on the action steps we laid out in your previous session. And I don't just hold you accountable for the action steps from the most recent session. Often, especially if it's a habit that we created together, something you're trying to do on an ongoing basis or a mindset shift or something, I'm going to check in with you regularly about that, whether it's via email or in our coaching sessions, to make sure that it's still going strong. The cool thing about accountability in coaching is that I don't give up on you and the things that matter to you. Instead, we troubleshoot and we course correct until you make it work. Because let's be real, our best intentions don't always succeed. Even when a client and I talk through as many details as we can to set them up for success, sometimes they still fall off the bandwagon, or the plan doesn't go as well as we thought it would because there was something that they didn't think of that kind of throws a wrench in things. And I mean, I've been there too. You make a plan or you start a habit or you set a goal or something and it doesn't go the way you thought. And without a coach, it's so easy to just abandon the plan. No one's holding you accountable. You feel discouraged, But with a coach, I'm going to help you dissect what's not working and what we need to change so that you can accomplish that thing, assuming that it still matters to you. Honestly, sometimes when things don't go well and it's not working, over time we realize, you know what, maybe this actually isn't that important and we can just let it go. But if it is still important to you, don't give up on it, right? If you want to spend more time in the Word, or you want to invest in your marriage, or you want to grow some aspect of your business, or, I don't want you to give up on that just because it's hard and just because the first thing you try doesn't work, right? So after we check in on your progress, your action steps, habits, mindset shifts, what God has been teaching you, etc., then we get into your chosen topic for that session. And usually we need to do some processing and some digging to get more clarity on the topic before we can jump into designing the specific action steps that you're going to take to work to solve it. If we jump too quickly to trying to solve a problem, often we're not really solving the right problem at the root and we're not going about it in the right way. And so it's not effective. By the way, I weave God into any and all of my coaching sessions and topics to the extent, of course, that it's relevant to that topic and to the extent that you want to bring it in. I'm always very mindful, kind of reading my clients on how much they want faith to seep into everything. And for some of them, it's like a lot, and others, it doesn't come up as much. And so I'm always very like mindful and kind of play to where you're at. How do I kind of work you through things in our session then? Primarily with questions. That's a really simple answer, but I loosely use the Christian coaching model for many of my sessions, which is what I learned and was trained on at the Christian Coach Institute, where I got certified as a coach. And it's a loose framework that helps you walk through where you are now, where you'd like to be, what action you'd like to take to get there, and what obstacles might get in the way that we need to work around. But overall, my coaching is really fluid and really tailored to you. So it's not something where you show up and I just tell you all these things, or I work you through some workbook or, plan or whatever. As much as you might think you want that, trust me, that's not probably what you really want and what you really need. I think that's kind of the biggest misconception about life coaching, is that people think and even hope that I'm going to get on the phone with Diana and I'm going to tell my problem and she's going to tell me what to do. Kind of like the coach in the Subway commercial, like I'm going to be like, do that, don't do that. But the coaching that I do it's more like very action-oriented therapy, in the sense that there's a lot of questions. You are going to do most of the talking, and I'm going to try to pull things out of you, because that's usually way more effective than me trying to solve your problem when I don't know you nearly as well as you know yourself. And I don't know the problem as well as you know it. I feel very, very, very strongly about the idea that most of us do not need someone to tell us more things and cram more information into our heads. And I think this is why a lot of content like this on YouTube or the internet, or group coaching programs or courses or things like that, are only valuable to a certain extent and for a small amount of people. Because I think what most of us need more than that is we need someone, whether that's God, a life coach, a therapist, a friend, a small group, hopefully all of those things, to help pull things out of your head and make sense of what's already in there. A lot of times we just need to untangle what's already in there instead of having someone like dump more strategies and put more things into our head. So I am happy to step in and give you a motivational pep talk and, get you fired up or encourage you, or to tell you my opinion, or to share strategies. I love reading tons of books about personal growth and taking the courses and like doing all those things so I can tell you, okay, based on the book Tiny Habits, which, client, you don't need to go read, let me tell you what we could implement from that to help you with this problem, So I love helping you with that stuff and like stepping in and sharing things when it's necessary. But when you are working with a life coach who asks you great questions and listens really well, which I love to be that person for you, to listen to you, to give you a space to like let it all, word vomit it all out and help you untangle it all. When you're in a space like that, you can figure out most things on your own. And when I say on your own, I mean between you and the Holy Spirit who lives within you. So we do some processing in our sessions, and I help you get clear on what truly matters to you and what you're really after and what's really getting in the way, etc. And then once we have more clarity on all that, then we figure out the so what, the now what. Now that you have this information and clarity, what action will you take to move forward? And there are a lot of different tools and strategies that I incorporate into my sessions, sometimes without the client even necessarily realizing it. But one way or another, I will help you get to the point of deciding what action you're going to take. And then I want to ask you as many questions as we have time for in that 45-minute session together to help you get as clear as possible on the action you're going to take so that you're successful with it. You actually take the action and don't come back to me in a week or 2 weeks or whatever and feel frustrated and like a failure and, nothing really moved forward. So I don't want you to leave the session with a vague idea like, I'm going to go do some decluttering, or I want to read my Bible more. I want you to know exactly what that means, when you're going to do it, how often you're going to do it, how you're going to make it happen, what might get in the way, how you'll work around that, etc. For example, your action step might be, if you're going to do decluttering, there's so many things when it comes to decluttering that can get in the way, and there's so many obstacles and so many pieces to that. It might seem simple to just be like, okay, well, my action step is I'm going to do some decluttering until the next time we talk, or I'm going to declutter for 5 minutes a day or something. A lot of times we need to get more specific than that. And either you can get specific on your own, or we can do it in our session. But somehow you need to get specific if you want to really take action. So maybe your action step is like, I'm going to use the timer on the stove, and I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes every weekday after I get home from taking the kids to school. As soon as I walk in the door, I'm going to put my stuff away. I'm going to set that timer, and then I'm going to declutter as much as I can in 5 minutes. And, I've got these paper piles that are making me really anxious because I'm worried that there's urgent stuff in there I'm going to miss. So I'm going to start with that. And once I go through and make sure I took care of any urgent stuff there, I'll leave the rest of the paper for now. And then I'm going to focus on the food storage containers because those are driving me nuts. But I also think that would be a pretty easy win for me. So I'm going to focus on that. And then, I'll keep going around the kitchen after that 5 minutes at a time. And as I'm going through stuff, when I come across stuff that I don't want to keep anymore, if it's garbage, I'll throw it right in the garbage. I'm in the kitchen already, so there's a garbage. If it's something I want to donate, I will put it in a brown grocery bag. I always have surplus bags in the pantry, and every time the bag is full, I'll go put it in the trunk. You guys can see where I'm going with this. I think you kind of understand, so just to kind of wrap up that idea of, okay, really thinking through the steps as much as you need to. Maybe you say, okay, so then on Fridays when I go pick up the kids from school, I'm going to swing through Goodwill because that's on our way home. I'm going to drop off anything in the trunk, and I'm going to remind myself to do that daily declutter and my Friday Goodwill drop off by putting those things on my Google Calendar for now, scheduling them because I know if they're there, I'll do them. And, I'll leave those on there until they become automatic and I don't need the reminder cluttering up my calendar anymore. So do you see how much more specific that is? Again, we don't usually need to get that specific and get into that much detail, but you are way more likely to be successful with that plan than with saying, I'm going to do some decluttering, right? So I want to help you as your coach get as specific as it takes for you to be able to take action and make progress. And yes, I take notes on all the stuff as we're talking during our coaching sessions. We have a shared Google Drive folder, and I take notes for you the whole time that we're talking so that even if you don't take notes, everything you need is right there. It's all very clear what you committed to, what you're going to do. And then we close each session by me asking you to share what was most powerful for you in that session, like one key takeaway, something like that. And then I pray for you. And I do support my clients via email in between our sessions too. But that's the gist of what you can expect in a session during a one-on-one session with me. So if you're interested in learning more about one-on-one coaching, I offer free clarity calls. Currently, I do 90-minute free calls for people who are interested in coaching with me, which is insane and may change at some point because it's a very long time. I love doing that because I love getting to know you, for one, and I love giving women a chance to exhale and let it all out in that free call. And then, for us to have plenty of time to be able to see what's going on in your life and what you might want to be different and what really matters to you and what's driving you, and see how we might be able to help you work on what's bugging you. So if you're interested in that, all you have to do, your next step, you don't have to think about the next 10 steps, but the next one simple step is just click the link in the description below or go to dianakerr.com/coaching and you can apply for a free clarity call with me and we'll go from there. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit subscribe if you love this and want to be part of this family, and I will see you soon. Bye.